Okay, hello. Welcome. It is nice to be back. And today we are going to explore. But thank you so much. That's really nice. Okay, so let's figure some issues to fix. And there's a lot of interesting things that we could dive into. This is something that people have mentioned before, and I think it should be relatively straightforward. Hey, nice to see you. Yes, well, I hope that's what we can make it today. Ah, Kelvin, nice to see you, and congratulations. It is everyone. You're talking to the new lead maintainer of Sales.js, which is definitely a real honor, and I think well deserved. So yeah. News I think just came out either today or yesterday. That was pretty cool. Right. So let's see. What do we want to do? Okay, so basically, with Nuxt, one of the things that we do is that we do something that Vue doesn't support itself, which is that when you have two suspense forks, so when you transition from one page to another page, in the background, not rendered, we getting your article on Google. Is that did Kelvin get an article on Google? So I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about. Although whoever has got an article on Google is congrats. But basically, when you transition from one page to another, in the background Vue uses suspense to render the page that you're transitioning to, and that handles all the asynchronous aspects of it, including the data fetching, etc., etc. And so basically, there are some things that we can do to enable the rendering to be consistent. So by default, if you do this with Vue, there'll be flashes as bits of the page transitions, the bits of the route change. But what we do is we try and keep an individual fork. So there are these two forks of suspense, and we try and keep each one of them have an internally consistent state. So if the route doesn't appear to change from the perspective of your components in one of the forks, then you won't have watchers firing or missing data or stuff like that. Yeah, no, totally makes sense. But I probably want to read the article too, so do drop the link in. And so we have our own use route, which accesses like a consistent route state in a fork. And we also have a different, there's also a different use route, which you can access from Vue Router itself, which is not consistent in the same kind of way. It changes instantly, even before the suspense starts resolving, which means if you're using that one, you can get these sort of jerky transitions. So that's why we have a Nuxt use route. And it relies on you using Nuxt page rather than router view or something like that. But I think there's something we can do to improve matters in that, or at least to give an option to people. So if you're using use root, this works. But if you're using an injected $ root in the page, it does not work. You get the sort of global root object, which is not up to date, which is sort of out of sync. So I think we can do this. We can basically create a injection, like root injection, something like this. And we can create a Nuxt plugin. And basically what we want to do is somehow inject a plugin. Let's see, Nuxt app, Vue app. What's going on here? We basically want to add a mixin, I think, to the Vue app. So we probably don't want to add a registration to the, but we want to add a mixin. And this mixin is basically, I think, on created, going to want to set the root prototype. So do something like this root equals whatever. So maybe we define a getter or something like that. Now I don't know how much this is going to work. Basically, I have to test this a little bit. So we'll open the playground up, and we'll just test this plugin in the playground before actually moving it into Nuxt core. Always a good idea to work in that kind of way. Okay, so let's try. We want a plugin, and we want a root injection client. I'm not bothering injecting it on the side because there's no real suspense on the server side, so it shouldn't make a difference. And we need to make sure that we are in a root context. So we've got like an index page. So let's give this, hey Ace, nice to see you. So let's give this a go. I always forget to install Zola. And let's run the dev server and port 24678. Open that. Great. And so we should have our app running. I'm going to expect there's going to be some kind of error if I set the root. Well, I guess it seems to be working. Okay, let's see what happens if I access it. It's working. Okay, I'm actually surprised. I thought there would be some kind of error thrown. Well, this makes it potentially a lot easier to handle. So we could do something like this. Const root is inject root. I think that's what we use throughout the Nuxt code base. We have our injection, which is coming from, we use it in the layout, we use it here, and it's coming from Nuxt page, which is providing this reactive root in specifically a component that's just been created to do that. Yeah, no, I seem to be contributing to Nuxt a lot, but that's a good point. I'm happy to contribute to other things too. I think open source goes well when we are contributing to like it's an ecosystem, right? And hey, nice to see you. Okay, so let's give this. It's working. Okay, now it's going to be hydration mismatch because the root is not exactly the same on server and client. You see there's an HMR ID on the client side, but basically if we were to do something like, wait, this is so simple. I'm glad I picked it. It seems like injection root not found. Because this isn't in a setup function, probably. I wonder if I have to do that. So, Oh, it doesn't exist because we are literally not in there should be a Nuxt page. This should be what is rendering this. Did I ever get a job offer from open source? Do you know, yeah, I guess you could say that. So I am sponsored to work in open source. I'm not employed, but it is, yeah, that's what I do. It's my job, I guess. Okay, so we have an issue with the injection context. Let's just quickly check the view docs. So where can we inject? We can inject via, I have a feeling it has to be called in the setup phase. Yeah. But what I don't know, I'm pretty sure I can't expose a $sign value to the component. So I can't just do this. I'll show you what happens if I try. It will basically say that $sign values are protected, I think. Okay. I'm honestly surprised. How do I just make a living out of pull requests? It's an interesting question. I don't know. Maybe So how many hours do I spend on open source? Probably a ridiculous number of hours. Like, I think if you were trying to calculate an hourly rate for me, you would probably not be thinking this is the best thing in the world to do. I very strongly suspect that I could make a better living, like, in terms of dollars, not in open source. I do, but I am in open source because I love it. So I wouldn't be thinking, if I were you, how can I get into open source to make a lot of money? I mean, it's right that open source maintainers are compensated. Don't hear me wrong, but it's probably not the best paid career choice. I'm not complaining in any way. I do it because I love it. Okay, well, this actually does seem to be working. Let's see if it actually works when built. Oh, and we can probably also just do a very quick check to see that this is, in fact, that I haven't misled myself. Const view router root is use root. As use view router root from view router. And basically we can say that's that. Const nuxt root is use root. And we basically want to see, is this root that we have access to in the page now nuxt root, or is it view router root? I'm very much hoping it's one of those two. Oh, I don't know how long we were without a dev server. Hey, thank you for those subscriptions. Yeah, it's not. I think it's not just about open source. I think probably any job you choose, if you have a choice of jobs, you're probably making choices based on more than just raw money. You're probably making choices based on things like your values and what you enjoy. At least that plays a role. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of being able to choose. But if you do have the luxury of being able to choose, then probably it's not just about the number, although it is also. Okay, there we go. Oh, it's not the same in either case. I'm surprised. I would expect the object to be the same thing. But the interesting thing, I guess, is it's not the same as the view router root. Now, if I removed this, is it really not going to be the same? I am surprised. Yeah, it's true. And I think that, I mean, people are making decisions based on a lot of things these days. In terms of, you know, are you in an office even? Are you able to work remotely? Okay, right. Let's actually test this in a sort of like reproduce the bug sort of situation. So get rid of this, and what we're going to do is we're going to have the root full path. We're going to have a we're going to await a promise. And we're going to make it long enough that we can notice it, so 1.5 seconds. We're going to do that in each of these pages, and we're going to add some links between them in an app.view file. And we'll have, let's see, next page, we'll have a link, a next link to home, and the same to about. And let's fix that. Okay, so we basically should have weird. Ooh, yes. DevTools 0.6. Oops. I didn't mean to disappear. The alert. Oh, are they loud? Oh, goodness. Let's, I can't actually hear them. So let's just make that quite a lot softer. But thank you. Goodness, I'm catching up on all of this. Thank you so much. Hype Train. I don't even know what Hype Train is. I genuinely have no idea what Hype Train is, but it's something that's happening right now. Okay, great. I've got to say, I don't really understand these things, but who can say? Who can say? Right, okay, so where are we? We are, hopefully, come on. Why is this not updating? I'm fully expecting, I have an app.view file, I have a couple of pages. I'm running in the playground. And whoa, things are happening. Thank you. There is definite gamification going on, so I am grateful, and also I don't quite know what to do with it. Okay, so let's see if we can open this. Okay. Right, okay, so we're here. So what would normally happen is you click about the, let's make this more visible. So this is going to be our about page. This is going to be our index page. And I think what should happen is that if we click about, you see the root change and then the name change later, right? This is not ideal. Thank you for the kind words about the great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Dan, a video on Next Image is, yeah, it would be that's a great idea. Maybe we can even look at that a little bit later today. Okay, so that's not what we want, right? We don't want this sort of out of sync-ness within the page. So let's re-enable our root injection and see if it fixed it for us. I'm still a little bit doubtful, but oh. Yeah. So yes. Why has that happened? Oh, it's happened because we don't have a single root node, I think. Let's try that again. So what we should have is on our about page, we click home. No. Okay, it's not actually it's not actually injecting the right thing. So our root injection here is not properly. Let's try instance is get current instance and actually manually exposing it. And I think it's not going to work again, but let's just see. If that would do something. Is that going to break anything for us? Let's make the delay a little bit shorter as well, because 1.5 seconds is painful. Thank you. What a bits. This is a very strange world. Okay, right. So, right, we want to go home. That was a hard reload. How about? Yeah, so let's see. Okay, what are we going to want to set this on? We could try the actual proxy. The thing is, I think we actually have root already set by the router. And I don't know if we can somehow force it. Look, here I was thinking this would be the simplest and easiest thing. Bits. Is everything working okay? Like in terms of, what have I've even got... So how do you start? So what are the development codes tools? So right now I'm using VS Code, and this is... I wonder if I have to define a getter or something. Or I wonder if there's a way to tell ViewRouter not to inject something. I don't think so, but... let's try this a little bit differently. So let's, in here, define a property on our global properties. So we're going to define root as being, what is this? This has become a game. Okay, I forgive my... Okay, so we're going to define this, and it's going to basically be a getter. Let's see if I can do that. So object define properties. David, hello. Root, and it's going to have a getter, and it's going to be defined here. And what I want... Let me just try this something that's not root. I think it will be easier to see what's going on. So let's just say we're going to call it test, and it isn't working because we have to finish this. So we are going to set this to be test value, and we're going to drop whatever we were doing in our mixin, and just this should work, right? So we should be able to see test value coming in. Yes. I totally would. That would be such a nice sort of. That would be a very effective working song, I feel. Right. Load. Oh, it's on index. Okay, so we have index. I'm expecting to see test value. It's only on the client side, I guess. Let's just make this, well, I guess we probably have to make it both. So you'll have to imagine it. Right, so we have a injection with a getter. Okay, now if I were to, now I'm going to actually just slightly change the format of this plugin so I can make sure it runs before the root plugin, because I want to be able to do something like define the root object before the view router does. So if I say order minus 40, should be enough to get it to run first. This kind of object syntax plugin, I could work on the ionic dist issue, because I think we could cover it in the stream as well. So I'm building a little list of things. Okay, so that's working fine. And let's just swap it across to root. In this case, I want to return an object, and this object is going to have path is some random thing. And if we go to index, I want to display root path and see if we can override it. Cannot redefine. That's actually fine, because what we're doing here, the fact that we have this, I think earlier, let's see, if we basically say set, I think we should be able to allow it to be set without, is that going to, we might have to say it's configurable, but actually I don't want it to be configurable particularly. So yeah, view router is coming along and overriding it. And basically, that's what we're expecting. Okay, so let's try overriding urouters. And we cannot redefine it. The only question, I guess, is whether we are able in some way to return a value here, which, so in created, for example, can we return a value that overrides it? So we basically would say, let's see, this.test equals test, this.root equals path. And that is throwing us an error very clearly. Oh, we are hard loading the error. Okay, that is working. Okay, so maybe that is the way we have to do this. Okay, forget that. So basically, we want to let's see if we can override it this way. And I think answer seems not. And I think we can't really return it. But again, let's try that. I think. Yeah. So, if only there were a way to create it as being called after. Let me try a little hack. Okay. And basically, I think that should be fine. Let's see, can we access, what is this context? I think we might be able to call get current instance. Oh, this probably is the issue here is that we didn't have anything visible to us. So basically, I hope you're enjoying the process of me trying to figure out what's going on. Right, what is this? Go away, Discord. Why did you suddenly appear? Sorry, give me a second. Hey, welcome. Right. Let's restart this dev server. And meanwhile, I think it's fair to say that I've also found another bug in the pre-release Edge version of Nuxt, which is great, because it means we can fix it before it goes out. But first, let's fix this. Okay, commenting this out because I just want to see this in the good. Right. So I'm expecting to see some kind of logging going on. That's what I want. I want simple logging, and I want to see what is being injected. So root injected, that, and that should run. I guess that's the thing. Oh, and let's remove our 500 millisecond timeout. Ugh. No. Okay, our mixin is not running for the setup function, it seems. So that's probably what's going on. So that's a bit odd. Maybe it's because we also have a created. Let's see if we drop that and our setup function should run. That's very weird. So this mixin is not running at all in the setup function. I bet the created will. Hey. Hit that, and yes, it runs a weirdly high number of times. Oh, I say it's for every component. Okay, so we probably want to do something like this. Is there a way of accessing the injections in here? Because it feels like we really should be able to access our injections. Oh heavens. Yeah, no, thank you. You're absolutely spot on, it seems, because the setup hook doesn't seem to be running in the mixin, which may be something I should know, but let's see. I don't actually do very much with mixins at the moment. So use of the mixin should be avoided, which is of course the case. But why? That's a bit strange. I do think that it should run. Okay, so we've got our VM, and ideally what I would like is to be able to That's also very interesting. That somehow this is logging on the server, but not on the client? No, we just haven't refreshed. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at here. Provides. The font is Dank Mono, which is dank.sh, and it is great. Okay, so let's have an hour look at index.view by seeing the path. Okay, about. Yes. Okay, so this is actually working now. We're seeing the delay and then the injected path. Okay, good. So in fact, we can actually just enable those and see if that's working too. Good. So it's matching the Nuxt route, so which is what we want. Now this, I do think we probably need to confirm that this is the case in production, but let's see. It's weird. Yes, it sure is. Okay, so still missing a letter. Very odd. So, by the way, the purpose of this is not to be run continuously in a Nuxt app, but to be an option for somebody if they need to still use the $ inject function. So this is not meant to be a permanent thing. It seems to be working fine in production as well. So basically, we can either offer this as a workaround for people who are using. So we'll call this Nuxt. What are our plugin names? A good example, Nuxt. Source, pages, runtime, plugins. We have this one, Nuxt prefetch, and we'll just copy this across like this. And call it Nuxt inject root, and we can import this from Vue and Vue internal type. And in our page module, we can then choose to enable that. So here we would be able to say something like this. Add global mixin to ensure root is kept in sync with Nuxt page. And we will make this an experimental option, so we can add a sort of configuration option in our schema, and basically say something like by default the root object returned by auto imported use root composable is kept in sync with the current page in view in next page. This is not true for use for view routers export use root or for the default root object available in your view templates. By enabling this option, the root object mixin will be injected to keep the root template object in sync with use Nuxt's managed use root. And we'll call it something like template root mixin. And we will enable it. We can set it true by default. We can disable before releasing. Hey, see you later. And Zander, hello, nice to see you. We can set that to be, false, I guess. It can be an opt-in because I don't exactly know the sort of performance cost of this, and we haven't actually tested that yet. So what we would probably want to do is just finish the module change, and so we can say if Nuxt options experimental, whatever did I call it, template root mixin, then we're going to add this, and so we now have a sort of nicely disableable feature that will work if needed. And I need to sort of rebuild the schema in order to get type support for that. So we could do something like this, and we can enable it by default in our test fixture, just to make sure that it doesn't break anything if enabled. So template, what is it? Root. Template root mixin. And there we go. So feat Nuxt allow configuring a mixin to keep root injection synced, and get config global username Daniel Rowe and user email. Great. Oops, that I committed to main. Definitely don't want to do that. We'll call it feat root sync mixin and push that. That's odd. And we can just open a quick PR before moving on. The issue, what do you mean check if it's set? The thing is that, you mean check if it's accessed maybe? But the tricky thing is that it is, it has to be set over and over again because we have two different sync forks. And so if you're within the page, you need to have a different injection from one that is outside the page. That is the thing. So the provided route might be different because you'll have one page, and if you even had a child page within it, then it will change at that point. I agree it might be expensive, and I think it's better not to access this root object at all, but instead use root specifically when you need it. There is an open issue for this, which I'll have to find at another point. This adds an experimental option to sync root template object with the Nuxt managed root. That'll have to be enough for now. And I can check a little bit more later. Okay, there were a couple of things, and hey, there were a couple of things that we were about to do. Somebody said the Ionic dist issue. Okay, this is something we can probably sort out pretty quickly. So we have got the Ionic module for Nuxt, and the Ionic module for Nuxt basically, just quickly clone it. Oh. Okay, so we're going to clone Ionic and just quickly install the dependencies. Great. So there's this issue here, which is about the dist folder, which is that Ionic expects it not to be a symlink. By default, we output things into .output public. That's the public folder. But we do have a symlink as well for providers that expect it to be in the dist folder. And it seems like Ionic expects the files to be in a dist folder, which is not a symlink. There's also another one in that we don't have an index.html file by default, which capsync also needs to enable, and I think we can handle these two together. So this is how we're going to do that. Right. Let us open folder. I'm going to open Ionic. And okay, there are a couple of things that we need to do. The first is let's handle the index.html. And this is relatively straightforward. So basically, we generate already, as part of a build step, a 200.html. And I think if the user hasn't generated their own index.html, we basically just want to copy the 200.html into that place. So we want to do something, we want to hook into the Nitro build, and post build, we want to copy it across, but before public assets. Okay, so after pre-render. So we want to do this. Let's see. What makes sense? So I've split the module up into parts. So basically, these individual bits of the module can be sort of seen in terms of conception. I think the router is probably the bit we want to handle in this case. So no, I think we want to do this always. I think we always want to generate this. Okay, so we want to ensure there is an index.html file after generation. Hey, I always get confused by your name because I always think, and it basically for whatever reason, like your Twitter name and your GitHub handle and also Twitch handle just don't connect in my mind. So yeah, crazy. And Archetype, I see. Hello, nice to see you. What's your take on Vine.js? Any views on that? Have you had a look? I haven't actually seen any code, but they announced that they're spinning it out of the Adonis framework today. Okay, so we want to ensure there's an index.html. So we want to hook into the sort of public assets, this bit here. This is before they're copied across. So it means that we can know at this point if they're generated or not. And I think, do we have access to Nitro here? Yes. So const public folder is Nitro options output public dir, okay? And we basically want to see if there's an index.html in there. So If not, exists sync, join public folder index.html. Then we're going to copy it in place. So we would want to ensure that there is a 200, I guess. Better make sure we do that first. So next hook nitro config. Oh. I think there is a sad little boy outside. Let me just say he can come in. Okay, so we're going to want to basically just set pre-render routes. We're going to want to ensure we have 200.html there. And let's just initialize it. And basically, we then want to copy that across. So wait, copy file. And we should probably just check that it does in fact exist. Before copying it. Then we're going to copy it across. And we're going to simplify this by extracting these doubly resolved files out. Okay. Oh, McPizza, what breaks your heart? Don't say things like that. I lost the context and now I'm sad too. Const index file is this. Crying in the background. Oh yes, I know. Yeah, I know exactly. I have sent a message saying that he should come, so I hope he will come back and be. He might come soon. Let's see. Fallback file. There we go. So I think this should ensure we have got a file in place. So at the moment in our playground, we don't, in our tabs, we've got I think it's we have an alias. Yeah, we have an alias for that, but let's Okay, what happens when you generate it without this change? I will say for sure that it is nice to see libraries doing this. So extracting core utils they've been using, putting it somewhere where it's useful for other libraries. That is just such a nice thing, right? Okay, so by default, we would have a dist with, or an output public with no index. Okay, so making these changes, we would now have, what I'm looking at right now is an Ionic module. Someone asked for it. An Ionic module issue where there's no index.html if you don't manually add one. And it would just make it a little bit simpler and easier if people didn't have to add it manually. So, has it done it? It seems not. Okay. There's no... That's interesting. So why is this not happening? So basically, let's just confirm what our public dir is. Oh. No, I do get that. That is true. Because basically, right, what is, it's resolving to the public folder. Oh, this is before it's been copied across. So, I guess it is before it's been copied across. So it's still going to be in the interesting. Let me just quickly open a new window and have a look in the Nux source code. I wonder if there's a hook I can hook into just after the pre-render, because in this case it needs to run before the needs to run before a build, if a build happens, but probably there's not going to be a build in this context, so it can happen at the end. So it can happen at the, I think this is only when we are using capacitor, so it actually probably could just happen on Nux close anyway. But let's try this. Open folder. And we're going to open nitro.ts. Okay. And we want this nitro.ts. And we run pre-render down here. Okay, so basically we either build or I think basically the answer is we have to do it after we generate. Or we do it when we generate the root. Could do it when we generate the root. That would be another option. So we could try this. We could say nitro let's do it like this. Nuxt hook nitro init. And we are going to use the nitro hook. So we're going to nitro hooks hook pre-render root. And if root.root is 200.html, then I'm just not sure about this. Let's just do it let's just do it on close. So when we're finishing up, we're going to get nitro from use nitro. And let's try that. So hey, thank you, and welcome. Right, is this going to create our index file? I see. I think that probably won't work. And it won't work because Nux is closing. So all we really need is the public directory. So we're just going to get it out here and say feels like it was a little bit more complicated than it should be. It is interesting. If you look at the like what he said about the, there we go, index.html generated. So this is basically, if next options generate, the whole thing can be wrapped in there. He does talk a little bit about what's different with Vine and Zod and Archetype. And the focus is less on other kinds of validation and more on like form validation and very specific features like that, which makes sense. Okay, so we've added this this ability to to generate an index file after build. So fix, ensure we have index.html after static generation. Okay, one more thing to do. So there's this. There was also, was this in the same browser history? It was dist folder should not be a symlink. And basically, so again, in Nuxt, we generate this symlink right here. And I guess if it doesn't exist, then we symlink it. So basically what we probably want to do for the generate mode here is we could just configure the folder. So config output if the user hasn't set it, then we will set it to be dist. So resolve Nuxt options router dist. But if they've set it, that will override it, I think. So let's try generating it now. Hey Flo. Florent. Okay. Nope. What do you mean no such file or directory? Do we have to create it? So if not config output public-dir, then we can actually create it there, and we can also create it here. Wait, FSP, the recursive true, and this should be an asynchronous function. Let's try that. Ooh. Ah, I see. It doesn't, because it already exists. So if not exists, sync. Ah. Okay, so there is this issue here that we shouldn't set it if it is a symlink. So so we've now got a full folder, not just a symlink. Okay, what do we want? We say okay, if is symlink. Let's see, link stat. I think, let's see, how do we detect if it's a symlink or not? I think basically if we try if we stat this directory, and if it is a sync, no, I think we want lstat, and then if we say, we can say stats is symbolic link. Okay, there we go. So if it's not a symbolic link, then we do this stuff. So we don't want to interfere with packages that the users who already have it set up. So if I run that again, it should generate a dist. Great. If I remove playground dist, it should still work. And then if I create a, oh yeah, okay. Okay. So if I go into playground and remove it, and I replace it with a symbolic link and try it again, it should do the same thing that it did before. What happens if I do this? Oh, I think I should just do catch. Great. Okay, I think this is the behavior we want. Great. So fix generate files in dist directory. Okay, good. Good. Seems straightforward. Let's just push those up once we do a little test. Nothing has been broken. Do we already have a generate test? What are our test files in here? We've got an SSR test, so there's no generation here. Probably should add a static generation test a bit later on, and we could enforce some of this, but for now, I think we're good. Probably need to lint it. Okay, people, I'm running out of sort of things that we previously talked about in the chat. I think someone said something about image. Are you still around, Dan? Do you want me to look at next image? Speak soon. Or I might do something else. Okay, that's good. In a second, we're going to take a 5-minute break. And I'm going to top up my tea. And we'll come back then. Oh, and an update, by the way. Apparently, my son decided he didn't want to come and cuddle. After all. So there you have it. I'm just suffering through a little bit of personal rejection there. What can I say? I know. Ugh. Bites. Cuts deep. Cuts deep. Right. Push those up. Take a 5-minute break, and I will be back in a second. Okay, I am back. I have been given a cookie by my son. It is half a cookie. I think it has been partially eaten. So I think I'm also forgiven. Okay, right. So, next thing. Let's see. Yeah, forgiveness is good. Okay, so I've not heard anything from Dan, so we're not going to do next image. But there are a couple of things that we could do. Oh, I think probably I should release Ionic. I always like quick releases. People can exactly. People can. Oh, what's going on here? People can try it out straight away. Nothing more annoying than having to wait for ages. Come on, people. Ah, the Z command. It is wonderful. I absolutely love it. It's an alias actually that I have to another tool. Should probably just check what it is. So I have various aliases, but Z is alias to FASD CD-D. And basically, if you check out FASD, it is a very, very, very cool utility. So here I am in Ionic. Say I want to go to Nuxt, done. Say I want to go to Ecosystem CI, which is something else I look at. So it'll basically look in your most recent. Hey, Prashant, hello. It will look in your most used directories and take you to where you want to go. It will even handle misspellings. Oh, that actually does exist, but I want to do something like. Oh, maybe it doesn't. It will handle misspelling, so it can be clever about that, and it can basically take you to the right kind of place. It's very nice. So anyway, where was I? I was going to release this, and we're going to give it a minor bump. Okay, so let's have a look at Nuxt vtest, which is maybe something else that also deserves some attention, and has a couple of issues. Oh, and some pull requests. Let me just check that there's nobody actually solving anything. And still testing. Great. We actually might soon be able to upgrade vtest because there was a very promising PR that landed this morning in vtest, which I am very, what is it, vtest? That I'm very excited about, and I think we'll solve some issues that people have been facing with Nuxt vtest around virtual modules, because that's very much required from the Nuxt side. With Nuxt vtest, we have lots and lots of virtual files that have to be imported, and there was a regression. But it looks like Sharamat has done some great work in identifying and resolving that. So that was this PR 3544. And I'm just sort of hoping that there might be another release coming quite soon, because that would be a very significant thing. But for now, we can have a look at some of the issues and resolve them in Nuxt vtest. So, where are we? Still going. So we can have a look at, let's see. There are not a huge number of issues here that are that serious, I think. But I think, let's see, what would we want to use? And some of them I just need reproductions for. I need to set up some of that infrastructure for Nuxt vtest just as we have it for Nuxt. What are actually this This is an upstream bug. This isn't us. Let's try this. It'd be nice to be able to use it with Nuxt content. Although I worry that the issue here is probably it's making a server API call and there's just no server API at the end. Maybe we could just mark it. Well, I'm not super thinking that there needs to be a lot of work on Nuxt v-test, unless someone has a problem that they are facing, in which case you should just say, and I will see about fixing that. I'm thinking I might move this nice little image over to the other side of the screen. Yes, you can ask a question about React. Go for it. Tell me, what is... No, don't do that. Moving things around live. Okay, I just think that should be a bit lower down. There we go. Yeah, ask a question about React. I'm more than happy to answer if I know the answer. Okay, let's go back to Nuxt. So, what is something else that we might want to do? There was a PR that I think we can get over the line, which is around loading. So, oh, naturally this is failed, but I think maybe just normal CI flake rather than an issue with it. There is a nice PR here to respect middleware when navigating. So, where is it? Add router before and after middleware. So the loading indicator will take middleware into account. So if you are doing some data fetching in middleware, it will automatically handle that. So let's see if we can do this. So let's quickly add an extension to GitHub pull requests. And I'm going to eat some of my cookie. So, trying to figure out exactly what your question is, but let's have a quick look at the documentation. So, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking, because it does let you hook into the context that you've created. And if you've created a context in a context provider, which is most often what you do with a context provider, right? Then you hook into it with use context. But I might be misunderstanding your question. Okay, so we should open our pull request review. No, it's not that bad. It's okay, pull request review. Oh, and we want to move back to main. And we are going to pull out which one? This. Right, so, okay, so the loading indicator needs to subscribe to the sort of start of middleware, and then it needs to end either when the middleware is done, or on the other hand, when the page loads, and that's the complexity here. So the first thing we need to do is merge. So get fetch origin main and get merge origin main. Oops. So that should throw up some merge conflicts, because that's why it can't. What? Seems a bit strange. Let's try it here. Great, so we're going to have to do a little bit of manual merging. Tell me you don't love this, right? But good news is this seems relatively simple. Just 2 bits of snapshots. We're just going to accept the inline change. Probably the snapshot will need to be updated. But for now, why is that? Come on. Here we go. But for now, we just need to save it, and then we can run our pnpm I and pnpm vtest run bundle u. And that in a second should update the bundle size to whatever the current one is. And we can commit our merge. Super. And there we go. Get merge. Continue. Super. Okay, so we now have back to our pull request review. We still have hopefully the same files changed, nothing else. And I think the thing from my point of view is I don't want to introduce new hooks unless we need to. So I think we can remove a lot of things here that should not be. Should not make any changes to renderer. Okay. Yeah, this is the only bit we need to remove. Okay, so we have our before and after middleware, so let's just drop those. And we also have, okay, so that's fine, we can get rid of that. And we want to, rather than call these additional hooks, we actually want to, I'm just going to take the easy way out, get checkout main, that, and check out this. Okay, so we basically don't want to change these files. And actually, probably the bundle is not going to change either, but we can confirm that in a moment. What I want to do, the only thing I want to do is change the loading indicator, and I think we can get away with this. So instead of calling this or hooking into this hook, what we want to do is say, so const router is use router, and then we can say, let's import. I think it is app root, isn't it? Or app composables root. There we go. So we have our router, and what we want to do is, instead of this, say router before each indicator start. And then what we want to do is we finish it when page finishes, and also router after each. And basically, we only want to finish the indication if... I think we only want to finish the indication if the root is the same as the start root. So it means that there was no navigation performed, I think. So maybe we would even do this before resolve. And that is called... I think it means that we're actually about to start the page transition. So I think what we could do at this point is say, let's just confirm this. To from, if 2 doesn't equal, or if 2 equals from, then indicator finish. Okay, I think that might be enough, but let's see if that is the case. Oh, my camera is dead. It's the sun. So believe it or not, it sort of expires when it gets too warm. And this is a strange thing, but at the moment in England, or in the part of England I live in, it's actually really, really warm. So it's tricky for sure. Okay, so let's see if this works. So we have our playground. Let's just create the setup. And what we need is some pages, and we need to transition between them. We have our app, so we're going to display next page. Oops. We have our app. We're going to display the page inside it, and then some links. For goodness sake. And then about. And we want to do some middleware work. So if we said middleware test global TS, and our middleware is basically going to just wait for a bit. Hey, Joaquin, I didn't see you. So we're just going to await new promise. It has to be over 500 milliseconds in order for the loading indicator to kick in. So what we want, yeah. Now, what I'm worried about is if there is no async page, then it might not resolve the timeout. So I want to confirm that it does stop the loading indicator. Forgive my typos. Okay, so home and about. Oh, we also need to actually have the loading indicator in the page, or nothing will happen. Next loading indicator. Nothing appears to be happening. That's not ideal. So we have our loading indicator. Is anything happening to it when we click? Yeah, stuff's happening. So maybe we're just not seeing it. So interesting. Let's just configure it. Let's change throttle to 0. Why are we not seeing this? No, well, maybe our change is just not working. If I change the about page to have the timeout as well, this should tell us something. Yeah, okay. The issue is our changes just are not having effect at the moment. So basically what we're saying, before each indicator start, and then before resolve, we finish. So let's just say what we're doing. So console log 2 equals from, and feels like, okay, that's good. Just go home. Okay, so indicator start. Starting. Okay, so it's not starting when I was expecting it to before each. So router dot I guess because it's being added at the end, so the Nux middleware are added first, and then this middleware is being added. So it's running at the beginning, to be sure, but it's running after the middleware that's already there. So, okay, how do we handle that? Maybe this is why the person who submitted the PR was feeling it needed to be done with hooks. So okay, so this is the plugin that we inject, and we have our middleware which we call ourselves in a before each. So we've got them here. We could, if we wanted, I think, register them later. So when would we register them? The thing is, if we're in the plugin context, the indicator component will run much later. It's always going to be later than this. Unless we add it to actually the Nuxt middleware array, we could probably do that. So you basically have our global middleware, and we can ensure that we run first there. So our global middleware, it's an array which we're importing from here. So we could do this. Basically, we could say on shift indicator start, and then on unmount we clear and we remove our okay. Let's see if I've solved anything or if I've just done something silly. Right. Okay. I think that's worked. Yeah, that feels like it's working actually. Cool. Let's just confirm the indicator that we've added. No, it's here. So I just want to make sure that it's not being added more than once, for example, to the array. Like on every hot module reload is being added again. So 3 starting. Okay. About. Okay, cool. Cool. What if there's no suspense involved at all? That's the main thing I'm worried about, that we would end up in a loading state where there's just permanent transition. But I think the example here is transitioning back from about to home. Like these are asynchronous. It looks like it's actually running twice. So we're starting it in before each, and then we're starting it again in page start. So the problem with that is that, I mean, we could basically have some kind of status for the indicator so that it does not start in certain situations. So basically what does start take? I think it could take an option like continue or something like that. Yeah. So, row is, it's like Doe, like a John Doe, somebody who's not named. Row is someone who's not named as well. So, it in that particular case, so it means an anonymous person. My background is, well, I think I'm not anonymous. Is a bit different. Okay, so am I happy with this? Starting twice. Starting in the middle where it starts and then starting when the page starts as well. Feels that's not ideal. Like, what does the PR do? The PR would actually have only started it once. It would remove the page start, which I guess is an interesting point. So in this case, could we remove... Wait a second. It does only start once. So why does it seem to be starting twice? Okay. Home, starting, finishing. About. Wait a second, let's do that again. So home, about, home, about. Okay, so whatever's going on, it's not because it's starting twice. It is actually only starting once. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's try pushing this. And then asking basically for the original contributor's review because, oops, we need to remove the console logs by saving the file. I feel like that's a level of deep irony in that comment. Okay. I think we need to add a little TS-ignore here, as it is a virtual file. And then I think we're good to go. Actor, use router, navigation guards. Okay, and so git diff origin main should be pretty simple. Once I get rid of the playground. Oops, I've committed some more console logs that I did not see. Come on. Okay, delete them. Okay, there we go. So that is a PR refactored that I think should be able to make it into the next release. Just to say, does anybody have anything that you would like to look at? Because otherwise I'm going to dive in to looking at some other things. Go for it. McPizza. Yes, there is. Now the only thing at the moment that you will have to consider is that the only thing you have to consider is that it will re-render the page because the layout is the container. But you should be able to do that. So you should be able to basically do this. We check out main again. And we have a playground or app. And basically say we have, I'm going to name this pages index. And we have a, say, two layouts, I guess. Sorry, this is probably would be easier just to say, basically metadata is reactive. So you can just change meta.layout and it will change the layout of the page. So if you have, say, layouts 1 and 2, and this one is going to just say 1 slot and we have got 2 and it has 2, and in the page we have got come on. Those classes are only applied if you're exactly on the route. That is intentional. It is an upstream change in ViewRouter from ViewRouter, the View 2 ViewRouter to the View 3 ViewRouter. It is a change. And so you can create a custom link for yourself in your own project that doesn't do that. But that is how it works. That is how ViewRouter wants it to work. So we're going to say layout is 1. We're going to have a little button that's going to say root meta layout is change layout. And again, don't use, I would actually do this for exactly the reason of the other PR that we just made, but it doesn't make a difference in this case. So then we start our dev server. Yeah, no, I think we would like to do that. So it's not top of the roadmap, but I would love to see it done. So if somebody is interested in implementing CSP in Nuxt, that well, tell me what isn't working with the other one. So the behavior of exact has changed. Ugh. Well, So this took a long time to set up the demo. So let's hope it works. Okay, so we should be able to click change layout and it changes the layout to 2. Waiting for the dev tools. There you go. Change the layout. It did re-render the page as I threatened because it actually changes the container, but there you have it. The page meta string be dynamic. I mean, you can do that too. You could do ref1. That should also work. Props to a layout. You mean from the page? So the answer is you can treat meta as a sort of utility thing. So you could do like layout props is hey, I am here, and then in your layout you could just do root meta layout props. Or maybe I haven't updated that yet. Disable code actions. Come on. Is it saved? Root meta layout props. Change layout. There we go. So you can do that if you need to, but you're right. Basically the layout is outside; it's above you. You can probably pass things down to the layout if you have a custom app.view. So if in your app.view you can do these things manually, you could sort of have a Nux layout and pass props to it in there, but I think what you mean is like from the page that's being rendered with the layout. And the answer is use the meta property to do it, because that will be kept in sync with the layout that is being rendered. There are some issues here about layouts, and particularly about suspense, that currently we're investigating. And that's to do with this particular PR that Anthony is working on. This error on layout switching. It is an upstream error, it's not our error, but it's obviously we have to keep things working for people. So this solution is a good solution, but it's breaking some other things. I do think it's still the right solution, but we have to figure out how not to break other things. CodeFlagger, just check if there's something that isn't working as documented. Let me know. More than happy to look into it. I'm going to have to go, folk. It's been super fun, but I've got a call coming up. Yeah, everyone have a great day, and I'll try not to take too long before the next one of these streams, because it is lots of fun for me, and I hope other people do. And yeah, and Morpheus, great. I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah, let me know how it goes. Yeah, okay, good stuff. See you all later. Bye. Yeah, nice to see you, Chris. Sorry it was so brief. Bye, Joaquin.